Hello and welcome back to the ARC Hive Podcast. This week we are talking all about gratitude. And it is particularly at this time of year, this season, especially in Canada, we have just celebrated Thanksgiving. And I feel like October brings on so many feelings, but also those feelings of gratitude and finding opportunities to use gratitude in our everyday lives. So, we're going to talk about gratitude in action and really what it can teach us about really living our lives fully, because it is a powerful, powerful tool. So, let's dive in. So, what if gratitude wasn't just a feeling, but a practice that could change the way you show up in your business, in your life, and really in your own mind? Really think about that for a second. It really is accessible to all of us. And I feel like sometimes it's probably one of the most underutilized and underestimated tools that are available to us. And again, coming out of Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada, it is always celebrated here, different than the US. We celebrate it on the second Monday of October, and it really for us is about we celebrate and give gratitude for the harvest, for what we've been able to grow over these months. Now that we've been able to, harvest those crops, and we celebrate all the abundance that has been provided to us. I think this topic also really matters because, we can feel the change of season. Maybe a slower rhythm, maybe not. I think depending what season we are in, and it really gives us an opportunity for reflection. I think for both. So let's actually back up, and I want to talk a little bit about Canadian Thanksgiving. So it has been celebrated for hundreds of years. It has evolved over time. It's been influenced by Indigenous harvest celebrations, some European traditions, and really a seasonal gratitude. I believe it was officially declared a national holiday in 1957, a day of general thanksgiving to the Almighty God for bountiful harvest with which Canada has been blessed. And I think I know the American Thanksgiving happens much later, but I do love sort of that coming together to really, give thanks to the land, to the earth for what it has provided to us. And for many, back in the day, many, what they took off their fields, out of their crops, out of their gardens was what then would feed them and sustain them through now coming into that winter season where really nothing is growing. So celebrating that harvest, and there's so much symbolism in that harvest of planting the seed, taking care of the seed, nurturing the seed, watching the seed grow, watching it grow to its fullest potential and be ready to harvest, and then harvest it to then, produce whatever and to wherever it is off to go. So I think it's really a beautiful image and an opportunity to reflect, on your own life. Where are those things happening? The Canadian Thanksgiving is a little less commercialized, I think, than the US. It's a little more focused on connection, nature, and really it's about the family coming together. And again, that opportunity for family to come together, we at our house, some of our rituals, and they're changing as my kids are leaving. Not everyone will be home at Thanksgiving. But coming together, what is something we're thankful for? We do take that opportunity and that pause to reflect and talk about it around a table of a very blessed meal. So that's a little bit on the Canadian Thanksgiving. But let's shift a little bit now back into like the power of practicing gratitude, because as a coach, this is a resource that is available to all of us for free. It doesn't, all of us can access it at any point, and it doesn't need to cost us any money. Sometimes it's just, bringing that awareness and really talking to ourselves and finding those moments of appreciation. Because really, gratitude is more than just a seasonal trend. It is really a mindset, and it's a tool that really does create transformation. The neuroscience of gratitude, we know that gratitude rewires the brain. There is a ton of science on this. It rewires the brain. We can see how it begins to reduce stress. What a powerful tool, right? Who doesn't need that? And it also boosts joy. Gratitude asks us to anchor in the present moment. And, when we bring ourselves and drop into that presence, we then can invite abundance into our lives. If we are not in present moment, where it's really hard to call in abundance from the past, it's hard to call in abundance from very far in the future, but in the present moment, that is really where we can feel, where we're pausing, where we can really feel and really have that activation as an invitation to abundance into our life. Gratitude as a practice for entrepreneurs is powerful. Again, it can really help us. And I do a lot of work with my coaching clients on this, is shifting from scarcity to an abundance mindset. And this is work that all of us need to do. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It is easy to slip back into patterns, but again, it's just having that awareness that I slip back into the patterns, and that then I can shift and make it, be aware of the mindset that I'm in, and what am I choosing in this moment. I want to share a little bit about how practicing gratitude has helped me navigate some challenges in my life. One, I think in parenting kids, which can be, I've got 4, and there's 12 years from the oldest to the youngest too. So I've got a big range. I think, there has been moments, and as I get older, I wish I had engaged in more practice of gratitude in those messy moments. I can reflect back on them and feel gratitude for, all that the hard times and the good times, but that the hard times, the lessons that were learned brought. But I feel like in my own self, I wish I would have activated this tool a little earlier. Because there really is, when we flip to see what are we grateful for, it also, not only does it shift the mindset into that more abundance or positive mindset, but it also kind of disrupts if we are in a pattern of real negativity or real challenge, right? Raising kids at all different ages, when they were young and, you weren't sleeping. I have a set of twins. We didn't sleep very much for a long time. It was really hard to find in those moments, the gratitude. But what I could see is, like, I got to watch these, as tired as I was, I got to watch this beautiful growing of 2 individuals side by side. I always say it was like this cool science experiment unfolding in front of us. And I got to watch that with these 2, which I never had that opportunity when you have a single kid. And it's, so there was so much really to be grateful for, even though it was challenging time. The next is like in growing your business. I think in business today, I will say mostly women really need to do the work on shifting from scarcity to abundance. We often, as women, undercharge and don't own our worth. And I do a lot of work on this with women in coaching, because I had a lot of work to do on my end on this as well. So I really feel those challenges and that struggle. And it's really hard to disrupt the scarcity. But I promise you, the investment of doing the work into disrupting that scarcity mindset in business, because really there is more than enough to go around. It doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter how many hairdressers there are in a town. There's more than enough people to get their, clients to come in for a haircut. Everyone needs a haircut. And again, I think when we shift out of that, looking at who's my competition, are they really your competition? It's an important question to ask, or is it an opportunity for collaboration? And that starts to shift some scarcity out of mindset for business into then, you know what, like I'm going to do what I do. And what I do is different than what somebody else does. And the important thing is when my business grows, the industry grows, which then helps their business grow. And for me, that is just, for some reason, it's in my makeup. I don't know where it came from, but that for me has been really a guiding light in shifting from, not from competition, right? From real, true collaboration, and not necessarily collaboration where we're working side by side, but working again, and I think particularly in this podcast, working in the hive, right? We're working together to bigger things, and that it requires all of us to contribute. And that starts to shift mindset for business. If we think there's not going to be enough, if that's the thought that we are talking about, that will come true. So let's not talk like that because it's not actually true. There is more than enough to go around. We just have to maybe find our place. Another place for showing gratitude, and I'll tell you, this one has been the hardest one for me, has been finding gratitude in having a kid with a terminal rare disease and the caregiving and the hardships that have come around that. And this one's taken me a really long time to reconcile. I'm not going to sugarcoat that one a tiny bit. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I could just wake up and be so grateful. I don't know if I'm still truly in gratitude for having to walk alongside this disease. And I don't choose to actually focus on that. What I'm really choose to focus on is I'm really grateful for the lessons and the time and the conversations and the appreciation for life that this disease has shown us. And I can't pretend that I'm grateful that this was the path and the cards we were dealt, because it is not easy. And if I could in any way undo it, I would. But that's not the reality. So I've had to find these moments and these pieces as we walk through these challenges that provide lessons, but again, allow for gratitude and also allow for joy. Because I think what this rare disease of Friedreich's ataxia has taught me more than anything has been that we are not guaranteed time. It doesn't matter if you're 12 or you're 92 and anyone in between. We aren't guaranteed time. And it's not, in some cases, isn't up to us really at all how much time. But I think it's also been a really great reminder of making the most of the time we have together and having the gratitude for every minute extra we get, because we don't know. And again, like I said, this one has taken a lot of mindset work, a lot of therapy, a lot of journaling and reconciling. And look, there's still days where I want to throw my hands up and say, why do we have to do this? Why playing that? Why? And again, I kind of have to check myself and say, that actually doesn't make me feel better. And it doesn't actually, improve mindset at all. Then I kind of switch and maybe, flip to the what if we tried this, would this make it better? And that then again just shifts from, Also, just a shift from what can control and what I can't control. And I think those apply for all of the above ones as well. And the last, I want to share a little gratitude reflection on community building through ARC Pilates, the studio, through the archive here on the podcast, University of Pilates, and then also the event that I've done is Pilates Fest North. Gratitude for being able to gather people is such a powerful feeling. And I do not believe when I first started my business a decade ago, I understood truly the power of gathering and bringing people together to really feel the magic of a gathering. And what comes out of it, I have so much gratitude to people who are open to trying something new, people who are open to just listening to other people share stories and learn from each other. That feeling is almost undescribable, but the gratitude also felt in that moment is, I also know if I didn't take the chance, those things wouldn't have happened. And I'm grateful that I don't really run in the fear doesn't really stop me. It catches up with me, but it doesn't tend to stop me. I'm really grateful that I, had the the guts to go for it and really see what I felt was lacking and created it. And I'm really proud of that, but really what it stands from is a place of gathering. And Pilates Fest North maybe being one of the best examples is it was supposed to happen in 2020. We got shut down 5 weeks prior. Happened then later in 2021. But the gratitude of that moment of Canadian Pilates teachers coming together in a time that was still filled with a lot of uncertainty. Not going to lie, it was still not an easy time. Many of us were still shut down in Canada, or were open a little and closed a little. But the power of business, Pilates business people coming together, the gratitude they had to be able to share their stories, their struggles, was very, very powerful. And that, again, the feeling of that gratitude, it was palpable in that room. And I have so much gratitude that people show up for that and are willing to accept the invitation to something like that. So there's just a little personal reflection on sort of 4 pillars that are pretty important to me and are guiding through my life. Now let's kind of shift a little more into that gratitude in community, and specifically let's talk about it in the Hive effect, because we are on this ARC Hive podcast. When we acknowledge what we're thankful for with others, it impacts tenfold. The ripple is huge. I think it's really important, and I think this is where sometimes we can overthink gratitude. I think when we acknowledge what we are thankful for in people can be just so simple as saying, I am so grateful, that you're teaching this class today. Or I am so grateful that you've created a community where I've been able to find my people. And just a little bit of recognition of how that gratitude has impacted you, again, ripples through not just to who you're sharing it with, but it ripples back through their community. It also ripples through your community because it's keeping you in that presence and it's keeping you in that really powerful mindset. Expressing gratitude to your business besties, to your mentors, to your team, to your clients. That is, again, that powerful ripple, creating even a bigger ripple, right? That when you bring in awareness, and I don't necessarily think this has to be just at Thanksgiving. I think Thanksgiving's a great trigger and a great reminder, but I think, how do you express gratitude in your business on a daily or a weekly or a monthly or a yearly basis are really important questions to ask yourself. And how do you want to express that gratitude? I think gratitude also, we know that it nurtures a deeper connections. It is a piece of leadership, and it also really sparks creativity. And again, it might not be necessarily the creative that your creativity just in you are giving thanks to, but it may create that creativity to that person who's on that receiving end of it. And I think that's such a powerful, powerful thing. And I know, like, having had kids that have gone through school, a lot of times, like, gratitude, they do a lot of that around Thanksgiving. And it really, it starts to spark creativity in children as well. And I think for me, gratitude is a piece of my business as well. And I'm always looking at ways that I can truly show appreciation, because it kind of comes back to that being seen, heard, and valued. And this, again, we don't have to talk about this necessarily in business terms. We could talk about this also in your everyday life. And when the focus is on, even when things are going sideways and they're challenging, and there's always going to be hard and challenging moments. But if in those moments we can just say, okay, what in this moment am I grateful for? It kind of keeps us from launching to our nervous systems on flight to pulling it back into that present moment. And I can be like, look, it could be as simple as I'm, grateful that my feet are still on this floor. It could be so simple, but it shifts that shifts the wiring of our brain. It allows us actually to handle situations differently. And it really, in a community where people feel gratitude and appreciation, is a community that really grows and thrives. And I don't think we can do this enough, honestly, but I think when it's really intentional, it's really, really powerful. So let's talk about gratitude maybe as a daily practice. Some of the things, that you can do is, each day, you could write down 3 things you're grateful for daily. And you could do this in the morning or at night, or you could do it at both, or you could do it 3 times a day. Like, there's really no limit to there's no wrong way to do this. You get to decide what works for you. Sometimes audio gratitude notes, you could send a voice message to someone who's impacted you. Just sending them a little voice message works. And, like, there's nothing greater than, I think in a day where many of us there's not a lot of joy in our day, when you hear, someone just sends you saying, thank you for being you, that really, like, that's a big shift. It's not a little ripple. That's feeling, like that could actually totally change the trajectory of someone's day. And, I challenge you to do that. The other thing, is having a gratitude jar. You could have it in your home, in your studio, in your office, and that's just where, your clients, your community can contribute, and they put it in that jar, and then maybe you read it later, or there's lots of ways. Sometimes we usually do this here in my studio is October's theme is gratitude, being grateful for a practice, and what are we grateful that Pilates allows us to do, that we write them on sticky notes and we post them in the studio so everyone can see. And there's a shift. You see the shift that happens when we ask this. I think, and there's no limit to how this could look for you. You get to decide. This is where the creativity part comes in. What would make you feel good? What could help change your perspective in a day, that using gratitude, and you get to decide for that. And I think, your arc is still unfolding. I really challenge you to just reflect on the season that you are currently in today and ask, what are you grateful for right now? Even if you're in the messiest middle of your life right now, what are you grateful? What are you grateful for? And take some time to reflect on that. And if you are a business owner and you're kind of like me, like a few little multifaceted things, maybe you ask that question, what are you grateful for in your life, in your relationships, in your business, in yourself. I think that's an important one. In yourself, what are you grateful for? And that then could continue further into a bigger ripple into your communities, into all kinds of things. But I challenge you to sit with this and really think about, what are you grateful for? And I really just want to share that, I am really grateful for all of you who show up and listen to this little podcast, who, share their feedback with me and tell me that, the things that were really powerful or were takeaways or things that you needed to hear. I'm really, really grateful for you. So take a moment today to say thank you to yourself, your people, and this life that you're building. Don't shy away from it. Actually look at how could you expand it. Expansion and gratitude will only expand you in all ways in life. And yeah, let's just, really sit in this moment of gratitude, of our time, of what is to come and where we're going. So I hope you have a very blessed day, and I can't wait to see you back here very soon.